All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the ever-so-chilly world of AC refrigerants.
That's right, and more specifically, we're zeroing in on R-32 and R-454B, which seem to be causing a bit of a stir in the world of air conditioning.
Yeah, it's like these two refrigerants are going head-to-head for the title of King of Cool.
Yeah.
But you know us, we're all about getting past the hype and figuring out what really matters for you, our listeners.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, you want an AC unit that keeps you comfortable without breaking the bank or, heating up the planet.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're taking our cues from the folks over at Wholesale AC Services in Miami. They're the ones who really got us thinking about this whole R32 versus R454B dilemma.
And a big shout out to them for inspiring this deep dive. They've got a really interesting take on this that we wanted to unpack.
Yeah, they're all about helping people understand the ins and outs of AC systems. And one of the things they highlight in this article that really caught our eye is this trade-off between energy efficiency and environmental impact when it comes to R32 and R454B.
Right, because it would be too easy if the most efficient option was also the most environmentally friendly.
Right. Like, where's the challenge in that? Okay, so let's break this down. On the efficiency front, R32 seems to be the one to beat.
It generally is, which translates to lower energy bills in the long run.
Music to my ears.
Yeah.
But then there's this other side of the coin, the environmental impact.
And that's where things get a little more complicated. To really understand this, we need to talk about something called global warming potential.
Okay, global warming potential. GWP for short.
You got it. It's a way of measuring a refrigerant's potential to contribute to, well, global warming. And in the battle of the refrigerants, a lower GWP score is like winning a gold medal for being eco-friendly.
Makes sense. So where do R32 and R454B stack up when it comes to their GWP scores?
Well, the article from Wholesale AC Services gives us the numbers. R32 comes in with a GWP of 675, while R454B has a GWP of 466.
So in the GWP department, R454B takes the prize. But honestly, now that we're talking about actually choosing a refrigerant, I got to ask, is this something I'm going to be doing at the store? Like, am I going to be staring down a wall of refrigerants like it's the cereal aisle? Should I go with the R32 or the R454B today?
Thankfully, it doesn't work like that. You don't have to worry about picking your refrigerant off a shelf.
Okay, phew.
Yeah, these days, AC units come pre-charged, meaning the refrigerant is already sealed inside.
So when you buy a new AC unit, you're actually choosing a unit that uses either R32 or R454B. It's not like buying, I don't know, a car and then having to choose the engine oil separately.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot less overwhelmed. But it does make me wonder why these two refrigerants in particular, what makes them so special? I keep hearing these terms thrown around HFCs and HFOs. What's the deal with all of that?
That's a great question, and it's all about understanding the evolution of refrigerants.
Okay, so, like, refrigerants have a family tree.
You could say that. HFCs, or hydrofluorocarbons, were introduced as a replacement for older refrigerants that were really bad for the ozone layer.
Oh, yeah. Those old refrigerants, like in those old fridges.
Exactly. Those old fridges were using a different kind of refrigerant that's thankfully being phased out. So HFCs were a big step up.
Okay.
And now we have HFOs, or hydrofluorphins, which are like the next generation of refrigerants. They have an even lower impact on global warming than HFCs. R32, by the way, is an HFC, while R454B is an HFO.
Okay, so it's like a constant game of one-upmanship in the world of refrigerants, always striving for better. So to be clear, both R32 and R454B are better options than the old stuff, but R454B is leading the charge when it comes to minimizing our impact on the planet.
You got it. Sounds like you're getting a real handle on the nuances of refrigerants.
I'm trying. It's a lot to take in, but it's fascinating stuff.
It really is amazing how much thought goes into these things these days, huh? But yeah, when it comes to keeping your cool, refrigerants are just one piece of the puzzle.
Right, like having a fancy top-of-the-line AC unit, but then forgetting to, like, clean the air filter.
Exactly. It's like you wouldn't buy a sports car and then never bother to check the tire pressure, right?
Totally. So what you're saying is even if I find an AC unit with a super efficient refrigerant like R454B,
Yeah.
it's not going to do me much good if the installation's botched or I never think about maintenance.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about the whole system working together. And that's something I really appreciate about our friends at Wholesale AC Services. They get that.
Right. They're big on emphasizing the whole system.
They are. It's not just about selling you a refrigerant. It's about making sure you understand the whole shebang.
Yeah, they talk about the importance of proper installation, regular maintenance, even things like making sure your home is properly insulated. It's all connected.
Absolutely. And all of those things can have just as big of an impact on your energy bill as the refrigerant itself, if not more.
Interesting. It's like they're not just trying to make a quick buck, they actually want you to be informed.
Right. Which is refreshing to see.
It is. So we've talked about GWP and why it matters. What other factors should people keep in mind?
Well, one of the big ones is the SEER rating.
SEER rating. Okay, break that down for me.
So SEER stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. Basically, it tells you how efficiently the AC unit uses energy.
Got it.
Higher SEER ratings usually mean more energy savings, but of course, those units often come with a higher upfront cost.
It's always a balancing act, isn't it? Pay more now to potentially save later.
That's the game. And then you've also got to think about the size of your home and how much cooling power you actually need.
Right, because a unit that's too small is going to be working overtime.
Exactly. And a unit that's too big will just be wasting energy. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
And that's where a company like Wholesale AC Services can really come in handy, right? They can help you figure all of that out.
Absolutely. They can assess your needs, recommend the right size unit, and make sure it's installed correctly.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I'm finally wrapping my head around how all of this works.
Yeah.
I had this very, basic understanding before.
It's amazing, right? Like, who knew there was so much to consider when it comes to buying an AC unit? I'll admit, before this whole deep dive thing, I probably would have just gone with whatever was cheapest.
It's easy to get caught up in that initial price tag, but like we've been talking about, there's a lot more to it. Right. And speaking of things to consider, I think the article from Wholesale AC Services mentioned some specific AC brands and models that use these new refrigerants.
They did. Goodman and Rheem were two they highlighted as offering both R-32 and R-454B options.
Oh, okay. So at least that gives you a starting point, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of just being bombarded with all this technical stuff, you can actually picture some units.
Exactly. It makes it real. You
Wow.
know, this isn't just some theoretical debate. These are actual choices you can make. You can seek out units that align with what you care about, whether it's maximum energy efficiency or minimizing your environmental impact or striking that balance between the two.
I like that. You have the power. You're not just stuck with whatever. You can actually make a choice that you feel good about.
Exactly. And it's pretty cool that we even have these options now. It wasn't that long ago that environmentally friendly refrigerants were like this rare thing.
That's a good point. So much has changed.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, for anyone listening who's about to go out and buy an AC unit, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
I'd say don't get so bogged down in all the tech specs. Focus on what matters most. What you need, your budget, and your values. With a little research and maybe some help from the pros, you'll find a unit that does it all, keeps you cool for years to come.
I love it. A cool head and a cool planet. What more could you ask for? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of refrigerants. Until next time, stay cool.